I used to have a problem with Luther. I gave Luther his first commercial. And I just had an incredibly hard time selling him because Teddy was hot then. All of the macho, deep voice, gravelly voice guys were happening in the record industry. And that's what the clients wanted in advertising. And I kept saying, you don't understand. Use this man. He's got a sound that just mesmerizes people. And finally, the client broke down. And you'll hear the spot today, I've got it. He did a duet with Sissy Houston for me. Once Luther got out there, I mean, he became the jingle king. For 2 or 3 years, you heard nothing but Luther, 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 which is why he doesn't do anything now. He's just really trying to build that back up so that he can command the kind of dollars that he should in terms of advertising. So when I work with a client for the first time, I still go through those processes, only because it saves time and money. Because to go and produce something and then have to go back and change, it's a waste of my time and their time.
When you say go ahead.
Just a quick follow-up. How does that work in combination if it's a film commercial? Are they asking you for music first, or do they do their film research and then come back to you and say, we don't want it too slick because we want it to appeal to a massive amount of people? Like, say, for Janet Jackson and a Mountain Dew spot, they might be more regional than just pointing at their urban properties. So do they come to you with some kind of resource like they do in film? Saying it's not just radio if it goes into
If I do television is different just because it is mass. I mean, radio, they can take a radio spot, just like you're saying, and air it only in Atlanta, or only in Miami, or the East, or the West, or the North, or the South. When you go television, you put it on network, and it's all across the country. So what happens in television, it depends on the kind of spot. When I do Miller High Life television, like the Pride spot, I will give them a track to cut to just in terms of the rhythm, the tempo of what I'm going to do. And then I will post score. And and in terms of the arrangement, that's what I do. I will post score. In terms of the vocal, if it's a quote black spot, even though it's networking, going to be aired across the board, they don't try to pull me back. This would have worked fine for a general market Mountain Dew spot. Okay, and I don't know that I've ever done anything for the black consumer market that was not palatable to the client in terms of general market crossover. So they pretty much let me do whatever I feel best complements.
So you don't have to do 2 pieces, is basically what you're doing.
No. In fact, I don't know if you've seen the Disney spot. There's a corporate Disney spot that is supposed to be a black spot, but it ended up being general market, and that's what they wanted because they want the upscale black. I mean, you get into the whole, what is my target audience?
That was Eugene Jackson, the one you're talking about? The Disney spot with Eugene Jackson and the one with the Cosby?
No, not the Cosby, the Gene Jackson version.
I had a question I wanted to ask. Well, because you're getting away from it. I'm just curious. You said you have to send the lyrics to the legal department. What are they looking for? And what are they looking for when they go through the lyrics?
What do they look for? What did I write?
What did they complain about?
Okay, I can give you the classic example in terms of poem. You can't use the word high, higher, it lifts me higher because there is caffeine in coke. So you cannot promise the public that they will get lifted from a product. You cannot promise the public anything. Okay, so you can't say, because I wrote there once, coke, lifts me higher, makes me feel more sad. You can't say anything like makes me feel more satisfied. Okay, you can't do anything like that. I'm trying to remember anything recently.
There's a client clash.
Okay, client clash. I just did Teddy Pendergrass for Miller High Life for radio, which was another kind of experience. You talk about growing up. You talk about growing up. And I had done Teddy before the accident for Miller High Life television spotting, so I knew that Teddy. And, I prepped myself. I said, I can handle this. I can handle this. I know Teddy is cool. And he's in a great frame of mind. He's not, it was me. They wheeled him into that room and I fell apart. I said, I can't do this. And I started shaking. And well, we don't need to get into that. But anyway, I did Teddy. And one of the spots I wrote for him was called Star Quality. Because anybody can go through what he went through. Whatever Teddy was about, we don't need to get into that, to come through it and to be the proud man that he still is. And I just wrote a spot called Star Quality. And the client had a problem with that. They felt that it was braggadocio, is the word they used. They felt that the black consumer market would get turned off if they said, that, not that Teddy was Star Quality, they agreed with that, but the fact that they were saying that Miller High Life was Star Quality, they felt was too strong a push. So I went back to them with 4 different sets of lyrics because Teddy they had approved the lyric, I cut the spot. We went back and revised lyrics 4 times, and finally they just decided to kill the spot because nothing was sitting with them. But I had done 3 spots. It was a matter of just changing the rotation. So there are all kinds of political innuendos that can destroy a campaign if you're not careful how you write. And the great thing about advertising is if you can write and deliver a message in 60 seconds, you can write a killer record. If you can get that message across in 60 seconds, when you have 4 minutes, you get into all this, and the sun was rising high and it was yellow, because you have all this time to develop the story. And that's one thing that writing jingles has really done for my songwriting. It's disciplined me to get rid of all the, the garbage lyric and really get the message across.
So, yes, I want to know, when you're looking for an artist to record, what measuring stick you use to, pick a personality as opposed to someone who doesn't have a name brand but has like you say, mesmerizing voice, quality that's never been heard that we can focus on that product. When is a star personality is your priority, or do you look for new voices you can work with?
No, I do everybody and anybody. What will happen is a lot of times research and focus groups will show that a particular product needs a spokesperson in order to build credibility with the target audience. At that point, the client will say, we'd like a celebrity spokesperson. On the other hand, there are quote, day-to-day spots. There are spots, you can do 100, 200 spots a year. And I use studio talent all the time. You heard Damas earlier. The next spot I'm playing you is a guy who at the time was a studio singer. He's now a big record producer. I use Fonzie Thornton all the time. I'm sure you know. He is a, quote, studio singer. He's had record deals, but the bottom line is he's a studio singer. Vivian Cherry, who did the Come Back to Jamaica spots and Kentucky Fried Chicken, makes upwards of $750,000 a year doing jingles, which is if you're in the A string in advertising, you can gross $1 million a year singing jingles. So no, I do not key in on celebrities. What has happened is that I have developed relationships with a lot of celebrities, which gives me easy access to them, which allows me to use them in situations that the average producer cannot. So I use them when I can, because they love doing jingles too, because it's a different kind of energy which helps them in records. But no, I do not just do celebrities. I may do 2-3 spots a week. I may not do celebrities for 6 months. But if the client requests it, then we will pursue it. It also has a lot to do with budget. You can get a studio singer for $150, and at least it's going to cost you $400,000. Depends on the product and the budget and credibility of the product.
I'm just starting out doing jingle work. I didn't know how to plot any jingles at home and read them. And it was like they paid me off a flat rate and everything. And I want to know how to get into the mainstream of how to make myself more
Right. What you need to do is to put a tape together. And tapes do work, because I have listened to somebody's tape and used them the next week. The key markets, especially for blacks, and I don't want to get pigeonholed into blacks because there are a lot of blacks who have generic sounds. But you should key into New York. Chicago is killing it. Okay, and I can tell you how to get a listing of the not just the black production companies, but Burrell is in Chicago. There's quite a few black agencies, and also the West Coast. But New York, to me, is because of the volume of jingles that comes out of New York. New York is a key marketplace, and I don't ever do buyouts. I don't ever do buyouts. Buyouts is when the things are practically. And if you raise your consciousness, no matter how much the rent needs to be paid and the baby needs new shoes, just say to yourself and to people who approach you, I'm very sorry, I'm not available for buyouts. The good stuff will come. It really works. As long as you do those buyouts, what you attract is what you pull back. You know what I'm saying? And it really does work.
To write a jingle, I've written some. To write a jingle for a company, now my next step is getting it to that company. How do I go about
Are
doing
you
that?
writing or are you singing?
I'm a songwriter as well as a singer. Right?
What do you want to do in advertising? Do you want to sing or do you want to write?
I want to sing the jingles and I wanted to write because I'm a songwriter, and sometimes when I hear something or I hear a client talking about something, I get an idea immediately because I'm a songwriter and I can come up with something. So I'm saying sometimes I'm sitting at home and I'll go, God, I'm walking around the house and I'll come up with something and go, this is so good. How? But I don't know how to get it to this person.
First of all,
or the company, of course.
That road, and I'm going to be real honest, that road is very narrow. It's very narrow. When I get things through the mail, and I'm going to be real honest, when I get things through the mail that have been written by people, I send them back, and I'll tell you why. There have been too many. I've been doing this. It'll be 16 years. I have been in advertising, and I used to work for McCann Erickson, which at the time was the second largest ad agency in the world. And there were too many times where we had to spend a whole lot of time in court because somebody like you who sent us a tape of a jingle heard something 8 months later that had 2 words in it that were the same as the 2 words that they had what they sent us, and we were in court trying to prove that we didn't steal it. So as a matter of course, I send it back. Thank you very much, but we do not accept. And I know, and I know a lot of ad agencies do that. It just gets to be real touchy. If you were to align yourself with a music production company or a jingle company, then as a staff writer, that's the way to approach that. But to me, you either need to sing at this point or you need to write. Don't divide your energies. Don't divide your energies.
I deal with a lot of jingles because I work with I'm the jingle department at BMI. And I'm starting to find out that the competition is so stiff with the musicians. Buyouts is starting to become very common in New York. In other words, I remember at one time it used to be with the 802. It used to be the $75. For the original 1 hour session.
Right.
And now of course it's well over $100. But the competition, and as I said, I'm not talking about small things. I'm talking about people like John Faddis, the late George Marsh, which was practically on every jingle, on woodwinds and all that.
Right.
With the competition, they are starting to go. What they are starting to do is they are maybe doubling or tripling the initial fee, and going that way. And so instead of actually having the $90 per hour, they'll say, okay, you have here's your $270. But they are starting to be reluctant. I'm not saying in all cases. I mean, it all depends how strong you are, individually. But with so many musicians out, I know that they are.
Well, talent, I'm not going to sit here and say it's easy. Talent, and believe it or not, it's affecting the general market people. And I'm not going to say white and black, because even though it's dealt with white and black,
I'm not speaking of white and black.
there's generic and there's blacks. Even with the general market in advertising and music is suffering more than the blacks. And that's because advertisers have to do a certain amount of advertising for the black consumer market, period. They just have to. There is a bottom line, and that varies this much. With the general market, it can be because they have so much more volume and so much more money to work with. Depending on the economy and everything else, they may spend $20 billion this year, and then next year only spend 10, and that money comes out of the talent.
Right.
All I'm saying is that how I operate and how I recommend people to operate, because people come to me. Somebody came to me 2 weeks ago and said, we want to do this spot, but we want to do it as a buyout. And I'm very sorry I don't do buyouts. And Daryl Tix is here. Daryl is one of the most used background singers, studio singers in New York. And I don't know if you've been doing buyouts lately, Daryl. But it's advice that I gave Daryl when I don't know if I gave you your first commercial too. I don't remember.
If it wasn't the first, it was almost the first.
Yeah. And I always, and it's hard when you're struggling.
Oh,
It's
sure.
hard.
Yes.
When you're trying to do these jingles during the day, I know this, Darryl and I have done record days where we sung for $20 a piece, 10-minute records. And you know, 10 o'clock at night, I was 6 months pregnant.
That's
we did
right.
every day at midnight.
That's right.
And this was 1983, and I was quote successful. Midnight on 90th Street in New York.
That's right.
This
That's right.
City,
I remember the record.
From
Mhm.
12
That's
to
right.
3, and it came out. You know what I'm saying? We sang till 4 o'clock in the morning. So, but you've got to, if you hold yourself in a certain light, and you have to, then you'll attract that. But if you settle, if you compromise, if you say just this once, then all of a sudden, because word gets around, Darryl does buyouts, you know, Debbie does buyouts, and then, you know, Miller, I would never. Not only do I not do buyouts, I try to back off the synthesizers, and I love synth, and you'll hear some stuff I've done that's all synth. But I put in my budgets for string players. String players are dying. They're dying. They're dying. I always put in my budgets for 25 musicians. And if it calls for strings, I use human beings. You know, I will fall back, I'll double with synth, I'll do
Do
whatever.
they put pressure on you? Are people, maybe advertisers saying, come on, you don't need all that.
No.
Really?
No, you know why? Because a lot of people finagle with the budgets so that they make a lot of money. So my budgets in terms of production are equal to or below a lot of other people's budgets because everything is black and white. Musicians, singers, blah, blah. I don't hide money. I don't, you know what I'm saying? And a lot of people do that, and that's when the clients get upset because they know that you're stealing. But if they know that you have a budget for 25 musicians and they see the musician's contract and they see 25 musicians and they hear the spot and it sounds great, they could care less. They could care less. It's when you have a budget for 25 musicians and they hear it and they know that it's all Leon Pendarvis in his studio, or, you know, and they say, hey, Debbie, what's going on? As long as you're honest, it's cool. And I'm not saying that the buyout situation doesn't exist. I know it does. All I'm saying is that if you hold yourself in a certain light, you can pull that other stuff.
Where do you see the market going in terms of the budgets from the corporate giants? Is there going to be more money in the future, do you think, that corporations are beginning to realize what the potential black market is, or do you think you see it going the other way?
They understand the potential of the black market, but like the record industry, if they can get something for nothing, they'll grab it. Which is, I spend a lot of time.
Do you feel they can get something? Do you feel that they still can get something for nothing?
From black folks, yeah. I know they do. I can't tell you how many phone conversations I have with managers of black acts when I approach to do commercials, that I am telling them how to negotiate with me. Now look, I'm gonna call you and I'm gonna offer you this. You call me tomorrow and tell me that you want that. Now I'll call you back, and it sounds like a joke, but this is what I do. Because management of black artists do not understand advertising. The advertising dollar, when they can ask for a lot of money, when they should back off and take what they're asked, you know, what they're offered. They just don't understand. And the money is there. You just have to stand firm and ask
But
for it.
you know what this guy says in Ohio? He goes, I don't have to pay you or anybody else a whole lot of money because there are starving musicians around. I can use them for cheap. He says, so if you're going to charge me such and such and such, that's okay. And because I wanted to do this Ohio lobby thing, that's why I took a buyout. And I did those too, and I'm inspiring to do other things, but I don't want to go because it's like almost a thing like I'm being underpaid. You know what I'm saying?
Well, I'll tell you, it's like, I can translate this to another area of life. You can be dating somebody who you know is not your equal, or who is just, it's just not happening. He's okay, but it's not, you know it's not what you're looking for. As long as you keep that person in your life, you are preventing the other person from coming to you. You have to let go and create the vacuum. Okay? Had you not accepted that lottery spot, you might have gotten a Coke final. And that seems very ethereal and far out. I know, I understand where you're coming from. I've done it for 16 years. Listen to me, okay? Listen to me. I don't know how much money you got on the lottery spot. I hope you enjoyed spending it. The next time that man comes to you, tell him that you have had an awakening and you're not doing that anymore. You know, and get some tapes together. You can do presentation tapes cheaply, and if you don't have that many commercials, just take 30 seconds of if you've got some stuff, rough demos, just take 30 seconds of it and then fade it out, crossfade into the next thing.
Of just songs or
whatever you've got on yourself, whatever you've got that you feel is the best representation. Yolanda McCullough, one of the other top jingle singers I gave her first job. She was sitting in the what the kids do in New York is they come and they sit in the lobby when they know a date's coming on. And what happened is one day Patty Austin got held over from the jingle before, and she was running late. Did she come with? No, she came with Frank Floyd. And Frank said, "There's somebody in the lobby," and I said, "Well, hey, somebody's better than nobody," and she sang her little butt off. And Yolanda is, again with Darryl, one of the #1, but Yolanda's another one who didn't compromise and settle. Now, we all did those $30 record dates, I have to tell you. We all did them. We did them together. We did solos. But you just have to hold yourself in a certain light. And we forgive you for doing the Ohio.
When you say about the buyouts, how about right now? Because as you know, that contract that NBC actually practically had with the whole industry, I mean, they backed off for 1 year. You know, saying if they did not have the rights to everything, that they would not air the commercials. And of course, J.W. Thompson, BBDO, kind of stood up to them. But everyone knows that in a year or so, NBC, CBS, and all the networks are going to...
They're already in a buyout situation. The networks, you can negotiate for a buyout with the union. It's not the same as a gentleman coming to her and saying, "I'm going to give you $200 for the next 10 years. Networks, when they do their annual campaigns, we've got the touch or whatever, they do buyouts. And those buyouts are negotiated with the unions, and the talent knows it's a union negotiated buyout. When I used to do NBC when I was at McCann, and everybody used to go and negotiate. And what the union does is they take how much potentially an artist can make at the regular residual rate, and then they negotiate a buyout based on that figure. To run that network stuff is so astronomical. That is a point where buyouts are feasible. I mean, at the buyout rate, our singers got $4,000. That's at the buyout rate. So there are some times when a buyout is feasible. You have bottlers, anybody that has a distributorship, Pepsi, Mountain Dew, Miller, any beer, anything like that, has what's called a dealer buyout. And they get to buy 6 months, they get to buy it out for a singer gets $250 for 6 months. Which gives any bottler in any part of the country the right to run that spot for 6 months. Now, to me, that's low. That's low. Now, what happens is they get these celebrities, and they pay them $10 and $15 million because they can buy out everybody else. You know, so Michael walks with $5 million a year, but Debbie makes $150 or $300 a year, $150 every 6 months. So there's a lot of, quote, I don't want to call them loopholes because that sounds illegal, but there are a lot of legal maneuvering that people can do.
Is this buyout something that's only for talent? What happens to the producers and the publishers and writers of the music?
The producers, there is a flat production fee, there's a flat arranging fee, and there's a flat writer's fee.
Producer meaning not just of the music, but of the production company or whatever. They don't get any residuals from the sales? Only
if they perform as talent, which is why producers always go down on contracts, even though they can't sing a lick, they always go down as musicians. There are no resids in whatever fees the producer gets, and I'm speaking music.
Including the writers and the publishers and all that?
There is a fee, and it's anywhere between, I write a spot for Miller's different because of the volume the work I do for them. But you can get between $7,500 and $10,000 for a 60-second spot. But that's, you ready, Dad? Is that what you know, that's, you give them, you write the spot and you get a check, and you know, there are no residuals involved. Now, if you sing on it, then that becomes different. Anything that goes through a union is different.
How do you go about finding out the rates for
any local?
After.
Call them. They've got them on print sheets. Yeah. They have it for solos, anything you want, they'll tell you. Yeah, they have a whole book.
You know, about this buyout thing, you just said the word union, and that's the key. The whole country is an anti-union climate right now. You were talking about that before, maybe? That's really what it is, and it's hurting. You know, our guy in Washington killed the air traffic controllers, he killed the steel workers, he killed the auto workers, coal miners, and he's trying to kill show business. As a matter of fact, when he was the president of SAG, they negotiated the worst contract SAG's ever had. And he's real tight with this guy, Charlton Heston, who's big in SAG now. And they are really, that's is a problem when you got your whole political structure working against the talent. I did a job recently that was nip and tuck for about 2 or 3 weeks because all of a sudden you had some real important singers on the job, and these people started talking buyout after we had done the demo. And there was no way that we could go for it because it's going to be aired. It's going to be aired to death, but it's going to be aired on a local market, but that local market is New York City. All right, so that's like 8 million people. And the thing about it is, what happened was we held our ground, and they were able to negotiate something with the client to work it through the union. But it's some kind of finagling that went on to make it work, some kind of monkey business, They had to do something in order to pull it off, but it was just a matter of principle to say, listen, we really think we can do a better job than you're going to get done in Dallas. So keep the work here, please. We need the work, but try to do it on up and up. And they'll find out sometimes it's not even more expensive to do it that way. Exactly. Go on and do it, because you might get the thing on the air for a cycle and decide you don't like it. And if you bought the thing out for 2 or 3 times what it's going to cost up front, you made a mistake. Why did you do it? Why be afraid of the union? Why be afraid of the pension and welfare contribution? But it's something that we're dealing with all the time, and you just have to stand your ground with it.
See, that's what I was afraid to do, stand my ground. And even though I belong to AFTRA, I still haven't even made enough in AFTRA to get on to get on the benefit plan. You get the benefits and everything. I'm still being underpaid. So you said don't.
We've all been.
That's right.
And if you come here next year, I won't. A lot of respect.
Deb, I have a question for you. Do you think that cigarettes will come back to television?
No. Not only will cigarettes not come back to television in a very short period of time, all my beer spots will be on.
Really?
Oh yeah. It's heavy. It's heavy. The beer folks are panic stricken. They are panic stricken because I would say a year to 2 years.
So what's beer going to do now?
Well, what's happening now is we're crossing over very slowly and steadily into promotions, which is what cigarette companies do a lot.
Are they going to have beer on the street corners for people to come up
No,
and sample?
they'll just put a lot of money into sponsoring concerts, tours, that kind of thing, where they'll get the high visibility.
They'll probably pick up their print ads a lot too.
Yeah.
Posters.
What do you do with it?
So that's why I'm trying to get in the record business. I don't want to have to do buyouts with her. Yes, I'm going to talk about it. Don't jump the gun.
That's what they do.
What do you think of the beer that, it tastes like beer, but it isn't beer?
The low alcohol beer or the no alcohol?
They said that
Mostly,
it's like it
yeah,
tastes
mostly.
like beer, but it's not beer.
Yeah.
The Canadian stuff.
All the major beer companies have one of those. We've been working over a year on Miller's. They're just trying to bridge the gap. You have vision and you see this is coming, so you try to get a niche in another area.
It's really bizarre.
We'll wait.
I think it's bizarre that we live in a country that's supposed to be the kind of society we have, that censorship runs so rampant, and it's not really helping. I mean, you have more abuse of cigarettes than you had before. Cigarette advertising was taken away. You have alcoholism. I don't think that it's a product of advertising. I think that, of course, I'm biased about this thing. I want to advertise guns on TV. You know what I'm saying? Call me.
But that's proven that advertising works. And I'm not saying, and I'm with you on this. I've got 2 kids to feed, but we know that it works. We know, that We see James Ingram singing for a Bud spot the next time hey, James, Bud, I like James, he sings great. I remember that Bud spot. Next thing you know, you got a 6-pack of Bud. And it works extremely well. So they're hoping by cutting it out, they can cut down. They don't expect to eliminate, especially young kids. 13 to 18 age group is one of the most impressionable age groups, which is why I'm real careful when I do Miller. Whenever I do any beer, the Seagram stuff I did, I'm real careful about where I target it, because you have to have.
It's funny though. I know advertising works. I grew up in a real kind of a liberal family. My parents would let me drink beer. One taste of it at 13, I didn't want any more. But then
I did.
but a few years later. Yeah, I was a teenager last. Right? By 16 or 17, then I was looking for things to do to look like an adult. So I did all that kind of stuff. But I'm just one who feels that our whole approach to cleaning up society is a little off. And I think it's a real conservative, bizarre approach to have people urinate in a cup to find out, to stop the drug problem. I think it gets to the same thing,
Sometimes you have to go far left of center in order to get back to center. So, I went to a restaurant 2 weeks ago, and my 2.5-year-old says to his waitress, champagne, and she looked at me like she's going to turn me in, but it's accessible in the house. I don't give it to him every night, but if you want to sip, mommy's drinking, you can have a sip. And to me, if it's accessible, there's no big mystique about it. There's no, and that's the way I think we were all raised.
That's right.
And after one shot of old granddad, I was finished for life. I was finished. My mother said it too. You want to puff off the cigarette? Go ahead. I almost choked to death, and I do not smoke. But it's we went through that whole permissive generation, and now I think it's just that pulling down.
Debbie mentioned, might be getting off the subject, but as we were just saying, changing society by eliminating cigarettes, it's not going to stop. People smoke, but they don't see it. Advertising is effective. Instead of wiping beer off, using the same artist who has the same power on the society, on the children, of saying yes, drink Miller, but also coming back with a taste of knowing how much to drink, where to drink, that type of thing. And that could be in an advertising.
I have written a spot that hopefully will air around Christmas time for Miller High Life, and it's called Don't Get Carried Away. It can be taken both ways. And the whole concept is we are glad that you like and enjoy and drink our beer, but we want you to be around, so don't get carried away. And it's that kind of, exactly. And I've been working for 6 months to try it. And I'm going to play you an Urban League spot I did on the male responsibility campaign. That is another way of talking to kids about making babies. It's the same way you take celebrities and you reinforce that message. So there's while this Don't Get Carried Away may not sell any beer, what it's going to do is it's going to put Miller in a certain light.
Well, I don't think it's going to stop selling the beer. I don't think it's going to hurt, but what it's going to do is a positive sense, because they're still going to buy the beer. Okay, because we don't see it doesn't mean we're not going to buy it. Right. They're still going to sell it in the store. The only way you're going to do is actually liquidate it completely at the shops, right? But it's the same effect was the guy General Kane with the music come on the rappers, right? Getting into, all right, what is Coke doing to you? So that's what I'm saying, to take that target audience who now is memorized by who is selling this product. If he has that type of power, then by putting on the end and saying, hey, don't get carried away with it. Like buy Miller, right? Buy whatever you're going to do to be the liquor. But one is to know your own limit. And then
this spot doesn't even say buy the beer. It's a whole spot about, it's the same format as Janet Jackson. In the car with my buddy, I'm ready to ride, blah, 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 got my girl by my side, so-and-so and so-and-so, and the next thing you know, it's saying, don't get carried away. So it's not even about selling the beer, it's about, here's a message we want you to have. We want you to enjoy our beer, but not if it's going to kill you. And it's a real strong spot. And when they first saw it, we were like, you need to do this. And it should be in production, hopefully for the Christmas season.
Well, you were saying we don't see it. Actually, the money has been redistributed to billboards for cigarettes and print, right? So you do see it, and hasn't that kind of proven for the beer people that you can still do just as well?
But there is Sure, they can do print, they can do billboards, they can do newspaper, magazine, and all of that, but there is something extremely magical about music. There just is. It just is.
Gets in.
And they don't want to lose that. They just don't want to lose
Yes, say that you want to get into advertising, and you might have, say, a bright idea or something like you want to create a new perfume, and you want to call it Perfume Vanity. So you say, well, let me go and get Vanity. Hear her who's singing it, who sings, and have her to get on top of it, see what she promoted, et cetera, et cetera. How would you go about putting those pieces together and presenting a package like that? Would that be out of your context?
It's not out of my context. I can tell you how to do it, but we'll talk later, because that's really, you have to end up forming your own company. In fact, I know somebody who's just formed a company to do fragrances with, quote, black celebrities. And he literally had to form his own corporation and get perfume makers and testers and do the whole shebang with it. Because an existing perfume company isn't, quote, going to need you. What they're going to do is take your concept, and next time you go to Macy's, you're going to see Vanity perfume sitting up on the counter.
That's right.
So that's something that you would have to orchestrate yourself.
Devin, I want just one question about this legal which I call censorship. Has there been any thoughts thrown out about limiting the airtime to beer commercials? Like maybe they'll only be shown late at night or only on cable TV instead of banning them altogether?
I don't know if
Because I know they're talking about that with cigarette print ads, to only put them in adult magazines and like get them out of newspapers and everything else. Are there any considerations like that?
I don't know. I know what we're dealing with now is a ban. And maybe what they will end up with will be that kind of thing. But what they're dealing with now is a total ban. Just wipe it out. Can I go on? You know how long it took me to put this together? No. Anybody have a time problem?
This is a particular project that was undertaken from the very beginning by the Miller Brewing Corporation. Now, of course, they didn't have the luxury of seeing the film before they sponsored such a thing. So it had to be that they envisioned that any labor of love can be captured. And so we're here to applaud that effort. And we're also here to show you exactly what I mean. And hopefully when you see this film, you will share my belief that this is the structure. This film typifies exactly what we're after. The camaraderie, the union, the sharing of notes, the meeting of minds.